We're back for another week of This Week in High School Sports, and Steve Willits, it's basketball.
Yeah, it's preview time. We have yet to start off our seasons, but nonetheless, the players are in the gym. They're getting ready to go. All of our teams are kicking off their season this week. So we thought we'd get a few coaches in here and talk a little basketball. And we're going to start off by talking to Roger O'Neill, the head boys basketball coach for the Meadowdale Mavericks, as they get ready to start their season this Tuesday night at home against Burlington Edison. It's that time of year. It is basketball season. Season kicks off this Tuesday night, and joining us right now, the head coach for the Meadowdale Mavericks boys basketball team, Roger O'Neill. Coach, first question I'm going to ask before we even get into personnel, and I'm always kind of curious about this. You guys have just gone through 2 weeks of tryouts/practices. In 2018, nowadays we have spring leagues, we have summer leagues, open gyms all the time. How much of it is truly a tryout process, and how much of it is you already kind of know who your personnel is, and let's just get in the gym on day one and start rolling?
Yeah, there's definitely an urgency to get going. That said, we have 2 days of tryouts, and we had about 70 kids between freshman tryouts. We split the freshmen from the sophomores, juniors, and seniors that wanted to make the team, and everyone gets a fair evaluation and a fair shot. And I'll grant you that it's harder to break into the program if you haven't been into it before because of all the summer activities that we can do nowadays. But if everyone gets a fair shot, so if someone comes out there and is good enough, they're going to make the team. Is
it still possible? And this may not even be a varsity question; it could be even lower. Do you ever have that one kid that comes out and all of a sudden everybody, you and the other coaches, are looking at each other like, "Who's this?" or "Where did he come from?" Do you ever still have that in 2018, or not so much?
Not so much. I think usually when kids, if they transferred from somewhere else, we've at least seen them in an open gym in fall, or the kids have told us like this kid's really good, or something to that effect. So no one ever is a complete surprise, but you do get surprised sometimes. We'll talk about our guys in a little bit, but we had got a transfer from Montana this year that showed up last spring, and that's been a welcomed addition for us.
Yeah, you never complain about those.
No.
Start to look at your roster here, and I recognize a lot of these names from the fall sports season because I watched a handful of these guys play football. I think you probably have just as many football players on your roster as just about any team around here. What is that like? Talk about that dynamic a little bit. These guys obviously have been active during the fall, so you don't have to worry about them being out of shape.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of shape, right? They're playing football. Has it taken a while to get the rust off, or how are these guys looking in practice right now?
They're looking great, and we love having multi-sport guys. We preach it all the time that we prefer. If someone wants to be just a hooper, that's great, but we're never going to stop someone from playing another sport. And a lot of the best teams we've had in our history have been teams full of football guys. They just bring a certain level of toughness and competition. And for a guy like Mason Vaughn this year, who had never played football before, to go out and have the success he had and get that confidence on a varsity stage, I would think that's going to carry over to the winter season for him. And obviously Hunter's had success with football the last 2 years at the varsity level, and he's a guy we're going to be counting on this year in basketball. So I think just the toughness level and the confidence that you can build carries over, and we look at it as a positive. And you're right, it's a different kind of shape. You still got to get your basketball legs under you. And hopefully they'd been picking up a basketball throughout the whole fall and at least getting some shots up, which I know they had. We like it when our guys play other sports.
So now that they've put the football down and their basketball's been in hand for 2 weeks, and not just them, your other guys too, how are things going? How have the first couple weeks gone thus far?
It's been great. Pretty much a new team this year. We had 7 seniors graduate last year, but these are a bunch of guys that know how to play basketball, and our JV team had a lot of success last year, and so you never really know how it's going to translate to the next level. Varsity's a faster, more physical game, but so far in the first 2 weeks of practice, I've been really pleased. Just our leadership level as well. The seniors this year have really bought into what we kind of try to get them to do in terms of leadership, and our practices have been efficient and smooth, and guys are competing with each other. So you never really know until you go play against someone else, but I've been really pleased so far.
Well, as I look at the roster, it's got a nice blend. You have, I think, 6 seniors on here, 5 juniors, a sophomore. Tell me a little bit about these guys. Who are these 12 that are going to make up the Meadowdale Mavericks roster? in 2018, 2019?
Like you said, 6 seniors, and 2 of them played pretty significant minutes last year for us with Hobbin and Nick. But then
And that's Nick Buckley
and
Tekle,
Hobbin
right?
Tekle, yeah. And so they're going to be counted on to do a lot of scoring for us this year and kind of lead us. They know what varsity basketball looks like. But our other seniors have been great leaders as well. Cade Stiles is the transfer from Montana I mentioned, and he's just fit in really well with this group of guys on and off the court. So that's been exciting. And he's a good shooter and plays hard and good defense. And then Ray Free is another guy that had success in football this year, and he's dominated JV basketball the last 2 years for us. So he's going to be a guy that, come 7-15 games this year, I think the JV coaches on other staffs are going to be pointing at him saying, don't take him lightly at all, because they've seen what he can do. And then Julian and Tyler are 2 really good leaders for us as well that can play the point and, have been in our program for 4 years and are a pleasure to coach. So I really like our senior crew this year. And then going down the list, juniors, Colton Walsh obviously played a lot of minutes last year for us, and he's recovering from an injury this fall in football, but he's ready to go. Will McKinley played a lot of minutes last year as well, and we know he can shoot it and defend. Let's see, we got Hunter Moen, obviously we talked about. Justin Jackson played football as well. And he's a guy that just gives you energy on both sides of the floor, and we're excited about that. I'll make sure I'm not missing anyone since I've said almost everyone's here. Mason Vaughn, we talked about already. He's a bulldog out on the court. I always said he played basketball like a football guy, and so now he actually is a football guy.
He's a football guy and a pretty darn good one at that.
And then, rounding that out, our one sophomore, Cole Nelson, who actually just committed to play baseball at Oregon State last week, which is exciting, is ready for varsity hoops from what I've seen in the first 2 weeks.
So is this a deep team? I mean, do you expect to have a fairly large rotation, or what are we looking at? Or is it too early?
It's too early. Right now, everyone's competing for minutes, and practices are intense and competitive. So, you never really know till the games start. And we have a saying that we're only loyal to the scoreboard during games, and so who's producing is going to be who plays. But everyone right now is fighting for minutes, and usually by January you kind of find an 8 or 9 that you roll with, but I'm not sure who that's going to be quite yet.
Remains to be seen. We will find out here very shortly. An interesting note too, good news, bad news, I suppose. Bad news is that you don't have a ton of varsity experience on here, at least from a starting standpoint. Good news is that your JV team went 19-1 last year. Do we have expectations for this team, or are we? I mean, again, it's maybe too early. I don't know if you're going to put a win total on what you're projecting, but what are we expecting from the squad in 2018, 2019?
Yeah, like you said, our JV team was really impressive last year. Not just the 19-1, but the way they went about it, and they moved the ball so well, and always making the extra pass, and they played with good pace, and really committed to the defensive end as well. So, again, hard to tell how that transitions to varsity, but right now I'm expecting, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure it does translate. I don't know what the win total expectation is, but I know for me, we expect to be in the district tournament and playing our best basketball then, and so it really comes down to a couple games in February, and we want to put ourselves in a position to be in a winner to regional game, and anything can happen at that point. So.
And I know you are you're a Wesco basketball fan. I know you follow it as closely as just about anybody. The league has expanded this year. We've now added Cedar Crest and Archbishop Murphy. 15-team league. It seems kind of crazy to think where we were just a few years ago. 15 teams, and we're not divided up into divisions, so it's one round robin through the entire schedule. What are we expecting from this Wesco 3A, 2A conference this year? Who are maybe some of the teams that we're projecting to be some of the front runners, and who might also be competing in that equation?
Yeah, I think when you look at it's a deep league, really competitive, but I think when you look at it, it's hard not to acknowledge that Marysville, Pilchuck, and Arlington are going to be in that top 2. At least preseason, we'll see how it shakes out, but I think they've they've shown everyone in the last couple of years, with who they have returning, and then also this summer that they're kind of in a tier of their own right now going into the season. And then after that, it's really hard to say. I mean, there's teams you can't rule out ever, like Stanwood. They're always going to be well coached, and they always have guys that can shoot the basketball. And Mount Lake Terrace is going to be in the mix, and certainly Edmonds Woodway, with their success the last 4 or 5 years, is going to be up there, and they have Madoon Bowl coming back as well. I really couldn't give you an accurate assessment of who the top 6 or 7 is going to be. Again, with 15 teams, and who knows what other teams' JVs and freshmen looked like last year. And so I think it's going to be really exciting once the first couple league games kick off and kind of see where people are at.
Well, and the crazy thing about your schedule as I was looking through it, and again, you only play everybody once now, so it's the days of Meadowdale versus Lynnwood, Mount Lake Terrace, or Edmonds Woodway playing a home and home against each other twice a year. Those days are gone. So now you only get to see these teams once. I think it's game number 14 of the season for you before you even see another Edmonds School District team.
Yeah.
It's a little bit insane, isn't it? I know those rivalries are always there, and now it's like put them on the back burner and wait till later on into the year.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I was trying to figure out the way they scheduled it, and maybe it was kind of like a travel partner situation almost, where they do it in the Pac-12. But I think it just was coincidence it worked out that way. But I don't mind it. I think those are 3. All league games matter the same, but those are 3 games that you get up for because they're your cross-district rivals. And I don't mind them being late because there's a lot on the line, and you want to be playing your best basketball at the end of the season. And so I'd rather play Terrace or Woodway or Lynnwood at the end when we've got everything figured out by that point.
It's a great way to look at it. And of course, being that there are more teams in the conference now, it means you get fewer non-conference games to schedule.
Right.
So you've got 6 non-conference, and it looks like you're very heavily leaning towards North teams when you do your non-conference schedule, including your season opener on Tuesday night against Burlington Edison at home. So we expect to see people at the stable at 7:15 on Tuesday. Talk a little bit about your philosophy on scheduling these teams. Burlington Edison, Squalicum, Mount Vernon, Jackson, which isn't too far up the street. It certainly has a nice feel of being a North End schedule versus maybe going on and taking on a Metro or a Kingco.
Yeah, I think a couple things. You have you have relationships with a lot of these programs and coaches just from the summer and from seeing them around all the tournaments and stuff. But also, we're trying to get ready for our West Coast schedule and our West Coast season, and these teams prepare us the best for that. So there's a lot of similarities in Burlington Edison and Squalicum, and Jackson and Mariner and Mount Vernon as Northwest Conference and Wesco 4A teams that we're going to see throughout our 2A, 3A schedule. So, that's really my philosophy. I want to give us games that are going to prepare us for what we're going to see when the standings count, or in this case, this year the RPI is turned on. Just look at that first week. I think we have 3 very unique tests. Burlington Edison is really well coached. And they run the Princeton, and they got big guys that can shoot it, and they're going to really move the ball. Mariner's going to make you work all 32 minutes and make you uncomfortable defensively. And
that's on Wednesday night.
You're going to have to take care of the basketball against them. And then Squalicum, when you have a Hall of Fame coach, they're going to be ready to go. So, you need to be ready to match their intensity and focus level. So through the first week, we're going to figure out kind of who we are real quick.
And I don't want to focus too much on it because I think we might lose people here a little bit. But you mentioned the RPI. We're playing with an index now that determines teams' rankings, which ultimately decide the district tournament later on. So you can, in theory, not just in theory, it's happened, finish ahead of a team in the standings, and yet if your computer index ranking is below them, you get a lower seed in this district tournament, or you could be knocked out entirely. Does that factor into the equation when you're scheduling teams then for non-conference games?
Not really. Like I said, the RPI just started this year, and like we were talking about before, it's still in your best interest to win games rather than lose them. I figured that much out about the RPI. And there's certainly going to be a situation here or there where a team ahead in the standings is below in the RPI, but at the end of the day, you have 6 teams that get in out of the 14 3A teams in our district, and then another 4 that get to play in. So you have a chance to be top 10 out of 14 to be in the conversation. So I think there's some room for error in the RPI if there is any error. and the formula, and you're going to get to settle it on the court at the end of the season.
And finally, I'm just kind of curious as to your take, because this is new to all of us and haven't really had a chance to ask another coach yet. For years, boys basketball teams have been playing varsity-wise Tuesdays and Friday nights pretty much regularly, whereas the girls are on Wednesday and Friday nights.
Yeah.
We're flip-flopping that this year in West Coast, so it's a little bit new for everybody, not just the boys, but the girls too. Going to a Wednesday-Friday schedule after being so accustomed to Tuesday and Friday after all these years. What's that going to be like for you guys from a scheduling standpoint? Not scheduling teams, obviously, but practices and games, and how are you guys going to adjust to that, and do you like the change?
Yeah, I actually do. I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first, but I think what it allows you to do when you go Wednesday, Friday, once the schedule kind of gets going, is really just, Tuesday's game prep for Wednesday, Thursday's game prep for Friday, and then you can really take Saturday and Monday and focus on whatever you need to for your team, and use those days where you watch film on yourself instead of your next opponent. Whereas the Tuesday, Friday schedule, which wasn't bad at all, but it's a little less concise, I think, in the way it flows. So I'm looking forward to it. Everyone's in the same boat. So, as soon as the ball gets tipped, and, it's a basketball game, regardless of Tuesday or Wednesday or what time it is. So, if it's something they want to change and we'll flip back year after year, then we'll keep adjusting.
Same court, same length of time, same way of scoring, right? So,
Yeah.
And this is a Meadowdale team that is ready to go. It sounds like practices have been going great. And to reiterate one more time, 3 games coming up this week. Burlington Edison at home on Tuesday night. You go to Mariner on Wednesday, which really isn't much of a travel. It's right up the street there off of 128th. And then you've got a home game on Saturday night against Squalicum. So Meadowdale boys basketball team ready to get their season rolling. Roger O'Neill, we always appreciate the time, and best of luck to you this season.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it.
Always enjoy having Roger coming into the studio. He's been around for a long time.
He has, not necessarily as a head coach, but
Yeah.
certainly as a player, and was an outstanding one at that. Very tied into his community, too. And nobody can talk about the history of Meadowdale basketball quite like him. And obviously a good hire. He knows his stuff. Very committed to the program. And I think they could be poised for a pretty strong season this year.
Yeah, that's great. The O'Neill name definitely has a lot of clout at Meadowdale.
It certainly does.
Yeah. And before we go any further, I wanted to make sure we thanked Red Onion Burgers for their sponsorship and Sean Richards for his support. We do appreciate it. So we have more basketball to talk about.
We do. Another team, another school, the Lynnwood Royals, getting ready for their season. And why not just bring 2 coaches in? 2 alums from the school, much like Roger, coaching at their alma mater. Time to talk a little boys and girls basketball for the Royals with Brandon and Bobby, the 2 head coaches. In keeping with our basketball preview theme, we've got the 2 head coaches for the Lynnwood Royals with us. Directly on my right, Brandon Newby, who is the head girls basketball coach. And on the far side there, Bobby Hinnenkamp, the head boys basketball coach. It's that time of year, guys. We start trying to kind of project and see where these teams are. For you guys as coaches, there's a little more to it than that. You go through your tryouts, you go through your preseason practices, you're 2 weeks in, and Brandon, I've got to think that the girls at this point are ready to play somebody other than their own teammates, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a cram session, trying to get everything in and everything that you're looking for and what you're trying to do for the year. And but yeah, getting to this point, we're ready to play somebody.
How about for you guys, Bobby? You've been practicing for 2 weeks now. I'm sure there's so much more you guys can do as coaches. You'd always like to kind of tweak things a little bit and get things refined, but from the standpoint of the guys, are they eager to get out there and hit the floor?
Yeah, they're ready to go. We have a lot of guys coming back, so a lot of guys from last year, and so we've just been playing so much against each other that they're excited for Wednesday and excited to get on the court, and I'm excited to kind of see where we're at. You never really know until you get out on the court and kind of see how you look going against someone new. So no, everyone's excited. It should be fun.
Yeah, definitely. We should point out, too, the Lynnwood girls are going to start their season at home on Tuesday night against Kamiak before heading over to Bothell on Thursday. Boys are going to be traveling over to Juanita on Wednesday, so not a bad trip. Fairly close by. And then on Saturday, you go to Interlake before starting off your home schedule on Wednesday, December 5th, and that will be against Mariner. So as far as going through the practices and getting ready to play, what do we know about our teams at this point, and where are we at? We'll start with you, Brandon. You've got a relatively young team this year, not a single senior on the squad. However, you do have some varsity experience.
Yeah, we Nakia Boston and Maya Kirkman really last year throughout our run really, developed and showed the type of ball players that they are. And this year, as I've talked to both of them this year, that we're looking for just a little more consistency and a lot more leadership. Definitely we're having a younger group and no seniors. And, in our program, we have a big incoming freshman class. We're going to have a lot more younger kids with not too much varsity experience, about 5 or 6 girls that haven't really played varsity before. So it's an opportunity for them to lead on the floor, but also lead away from the floor and build those life skills and those opportunities that can help, create the stuff that you don't see on the court, but on the outside, and that promotes a good family environment to help us on the court on the inside.
So kind of looking at your team, you're very guard heavy, obviously, with those two names on
we
top.
have no posts.
Yeah, Nakia and Amaya are two of the better guards in really the entire Wesco Conference. Yeah. So as far as getting the posts ready to go and to get them ready to play with them, has that been a challenge?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, we're going to play fast this year. We're going to get up and down the court with not having too many posts. Our best defense is a solid offense. We're going to have to, I experimented in the summer to see how we did against we played a lot of big 4A schools in the summer, and every possession we were just running. We're going to look kind of like Edmonds this year. We're going to be running, we're going to be shooting, and, possessions are going to matter to us. So the more possessions we have is a better opportunity for us to win this year.
Fair to say that in 2018 you can do that maybe and get away with it a little more than you could in years past with just at any level, basketball in general these days, right?
Yeah.
So we will see how that works out. And Bobby, you've kind of been that team too. It sounds fairly familiar.
Yeah.
A team that's maybe doesn't have the size and likes to get out and run a little bit. What kind of a squad are we looking at? I know I certainly recognize some of these names from last year's varsity team. You, like a lot of other teams through attrition, you graduate some, you bring others back. So how is the 2018-2019 squad?
Yeah, I'm excited. We got a majority of our players back. I think 9 out of our 11 guys all played varsity last year. So we lost 3 seniors last year, but this year we got, I think, 7 seniors and 4 juniors. So whereas last year we were really young and inexperienced, and this year we got a lot of guys coming back, and we've been able to build a lot on stuff, and just having that second year, kind of just with me and being able to kind of run stuff on the varsity level, I think has been helpful. So I'm excited. Some of the guys that I'm looking for is Jerry Boston. I think he kind of had a big year last year, but I'm hopeful this year, we're going to be able to kind of do some more things with them. And we're not the biggest team, but we got a little bit more size, so we're able to kind of flex him out a little bit. And Josh Siskar had a good year for us as a sophomore last year, and we're kind of hoping as a junior he can kind of do a few more things for us. And we've just, our big conversation's been all around roles and what you can do for our team, and guys are kind of buying into that. So, I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful, and kids are having fun, I think, and practice has been good. They've been really focused and going hard. It's been very competitive practices. So,
winning can often be a culture thing too. You start to kind of get into that losing mentality, and it's hard to get out of it.
Totally.
You guys are a team that you haven't had as much success on the court as you like over the last few years, and this even goes back to preceding you being the coach for the boys. 4-win team 3 years ago, 6 wins last year, 6 wins the year before, 7 last year. You're kind of trending in the right direction anyway.
Yeah.
As those guys start to experience that a little more winning, granted, again, it's not a team that's been to the playoffs, but nonetheless, they're starting to pick up those victories. Yeah. Does that carry over into a year like this? When these guys, I know you guys had a huge win against Space Snohomish last year, late in the year. Can they kind of take that and build on that from last season and some of the successes that they started to touch upon at times?
Yeah, that's the hope. And last year I felt like we were just kind of more of an inconsistent team where we looked really good one day and then not good the next. And so, we're just hoping that we can be more consistent. And I hope, like I said, having that year of experience with us and just trying to play a full 32 minutes just to be able to finish out a game and just be more poised. Because, it was, we try not to talk too much about the wins and losses, but just trying to complete a game, trying to play hard 32 minutes of the game, not giving up and not getting down. And just it's almost more that mental approach because, talent-wise, I think we can be a very competitive team, but just trying to keep everyone together, I think, it's always a challenge for any team to make that kind of run when you start to get tested.
So along those same lines for both of you, when you start to try to gauge where your team is and you get ready for a season, in terms of talking about goals and expectations, do you place those on a team? Do you actually write things down? Do you share them with the team? Is it Brandon, is it a number total? Is it just a matter of getting to districts?
Well, with the girls, I always, one of the first things we do after the teams are selected is I have them do some goal setting, some personal goals that they like to accomplish this, and then also team goals. And talking with them this week, team goal this year is to get back to the playoffs, definitely. With the league being a little more open this year than it was last year per se. I've told the girls every night out it's going to be a winnable opportunity. And you just got to come to play each night. I think we have the athletes to get there. But I think it's, as young as we are, it's just going to be trying to get consistently better each and every night. And I'm not really putting any expectations on them because we are so young. But ultimately, the big goal for the season is get back to the playoffs. If we can get into the playoffs, like last year, I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. And with the young kids that I have, I'm going to go through growing pains. So I've already let them know that, I'm not dwelling on the negative. I'm only looking at the positive. So I'm not going to get down on you. I just want you to be who you are, be the ball player that you are, and bring your assets to the team. And then that way we can all come together with each and everybody's individual skills and team skills that they have. So,
in some ways, you look at this Lynnwood program. I know you've won you've been to the district playoffs, but this is a team that has won a state championship just a few years ago. They were constantly winning Wesco, I think, with 5 or 6 years in a row. The bar was set so high for a while.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you now have a team with no seniors on it, in some ways, with the expectations not being there and a team with not a single upperclassman, can they be a little bit more loose and maybe a little more pressure-free, so to speak? And in some ways, can that maybe work to your benefit?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Just seeing them play together in the summertime, we were really loose, and we played a lot of really good teams that we should have been blown out in the summer, and we didn't. We hung tough. We lost to Seattle Prep by 1 at the buzzer. In the summertime now, summer's not really. You don't really know who you all going to have, but Seattle Prep, that's a pretty good program. We go in there, and our young kids were not afraid. They came out and they balled out, and it was a really good game. So it's just one of those things that for us, I think to make a deep run is a 2-year plan. I think at this point, because everybody is still young, but the expectation wise is that would definitely have the talent to get back to the districts, and I think we'll have the opportunity to depending on where we're at. I know Ferndale is really good this year. Them and Snohomish and Edmonds, in that district, it's going to be a good district matchup. But I think if we get there, we're going to surprise some people again. And I got some freshmen that are pretty skilled. That I'm not going to put any expectations on them. I'm just going to let them surprise the league. And we'll just see how that goes.
Definitely. And Bobby, kind of the same question for you.
Yeah.
Expectations, do you put a number on things? Do you put a particular goal in front of the guys and let them kind of have that carrot to dangle?
Yeah. We talked about it a lot with this group, and we didn't necessarily put a number on it, and especially now with the RPI, it's just different than what it was from last year in terms of, you get extra points for, I don't even know all the rules to it, but, a team that's over 500 and 2A versus 3A and all those type of things. So, we didn't talk about necessarily a number. We just talked about wanting to get to playoffs, right? And I think that's a goal of, I think, every player in that, last 2 years getting to that playing game. It's been right there, we've competed in that playing game and got close. So definitely trying to get to that double elimination round is big for us. And then another goal just a lot of the kids had was just playing together as a team and just having fun, just really trying to, like I said, we have 7 seniors, just really trying to embrace that and make it a good experience for them. Just so they can go out and hopefully have the success on the court, but just also just make it a memorable experience for them as seniors.
And one question I wanted to ask you both as well, and we talked about this with Roger O'Neill earlier. They did a little tweaking of the schedule this year. In the past, girls played Wednesdays and Fridays, boys Tuesdays and Fridays. They're flip-flopping that this year. Good, bad, indifferent. Brandon, maybe I'll start with you. It's going to put make your practice schedule a little bit.
Yeah, I'll like the 2 days I get to prep for the Friday game. It's pretty hard, as he's going to find out, to go over that loss from the previous night, win or loss from the previous night, and fix those areas of weakness, and then game prep for your next opponent. So that practice goes really quick and if you have a lot of stuff to get done. it flies by. So it's gonna be a little tough for you, but I'm gonna like those 2 extra days.
Well, we should
Believe
point out.
me.
We should point out too. Bobby was obviously on the coaching staff for the girls team that won the state championship. So you've done the Wednesday Friday thing with the girls a few years back.
Totally.
Are you looking forward to it, or how are you feeling about it?
I haven't really given it much thought, to be honest. I'm just kind of like, what's the schedule looking like? What games we go on? And I'm just, part of me just says, it's whatever game it is, we're going to prep the best we can and get ready to go. And, have that short memory to no matter how Wednesday went, we got to move on, and trying to look at it from an optimistic standpoint, because it is nice having a couple days to kind of prep in between. But, league decided this way, and that's good to go. And we'll make the most out of it, and try to be as prepared on Fridays as we can.
Yeah, and you guys have kind of a unique thing in that we just mentioned, Bobby, you were coaching the girls for a long time, and Brandon, I know you have experience coaching boys teams. Do the two of you ever kind of compare notes or kind of help one another out in that sense, because you do know both games so well?
We
or?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do at practice. We'll watch each other's practices and stuff, and just kind of hang out, chit chat, that type of stuff.
And how important is that? Because I think about it often, but I don't really get a chance to talk to coaches. Just watching you guys when you're interacting, even off camera, you guys obviously get along really well. Is it important for the boys and the girls coach to get along? Obviously, you share a gym, you share a school. You're often, trying to coordinate things together. Bobby, what is that like? Well, first of all, practices. How easy is it for you guys to schedule practices with one another?
Yeah, well, it works out really well with us, because Brandon's coming down from Lake Stevens, so he's teaching at elementary school, so he can't get down here until about 4:30, and then I work at Lynnwood, so we're out of school at 1:50, so we try to start practice 2:15 to 2:30. So for us, it's just been really convenient, because we'll go right after school, then he comes in at about 4:30. But going back on that piece, it is nice. Like I said, Brandon and I have a great relationship, and when it comes to just the coordination of gyms and practices and all that, it can get chaotic, and there's always going to be situations that are going to come up in December and January, and we're just texting and calling each other, and we're super flexible and pretty low key. We're just like, hey, if you need the gym, and even on game days, we're always as we're on different days, we'll shoot arounds. Girls will be practicing. He'll be like, yeah, if you want to take half the gym to get a varsity shoot around in, and we're the same way. So no, I feel very lucky to have a guy that's really, really flexible, really loose, and we try to do it back on the guy side, because it's important. We both want our teams to do really well, and we're there to kind of support and help in whatever way we can.
Well, Brandon, you've been doing this for a while. I know you've coached at a few different schools. It's not always the case, is it?
No, it's not always the case. I mean, there's sometimes where you can't get a hold of the other coach. You're tracking down the AD to get a hold of the other coach, and if you got stuff that comes up right away or whatever. So I mean, it's nice to have, and that bond of us being former LHS students and athletes, and it's been pretty cool to get to know Bobby more away from the floor and whatnot, and so
It's a great dynamic. Two Lynnwood high school coaches, both at their alma maters, both hoping for big things for their teams, and we're excited for it. So we're going to get this thing kicked off this week. Again, Lynnwood playing at home against Kamiak on Tuesday, and the girls anyway. The boys traveling over to Juanita, which is over in Kirkland, so get on over there Wednesday night. It's a 7:15 start time. Bobby, Brandon, thank you again for your time, and we're hoping for some big things from the Royals this year.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Steve.
it.
Yeah.
Well, the Royals girls team is always competitive, and it will be good to see what they can do this year.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting team. Not a senior on the squad.
Yeah.
All juniors except for one freshman. So certainly it's a 2-year window for them. But Brandon's done a great job over there, and Bobby as well. And it'll be fun to kind of see what both those teams can do.
Yeah, and the Bostons, that name just keeps coming up.
That's another name, and you get those at certain schools,
Yeah.
right? Kids going through the program, and she seems to be one after the other. And Nakia, every bit as good as her siblings, and then Jerry on the boys' side. So it'll be fun to see how the two siblings do this year, and hopefully a few wins out there for both as well.
Yeah, so you have an upcoming list of basketball schedules for the week?
We've got 8 teams, 4 boys, 4 girls. So if anybody wants to get out there and check out the season openers, we thought we'd at least provide you with this right now. For the boys, we've already mentioned that Meadowdale gets rolling on Tuesday night at home at the Stable against Burlington Edison. We've also got a Lynnwood team going to Mariner on Wednesday. Mount Lake Terrace is at Squalicum on Thursday, so you might have to travel a little bit for that one. And then Juanita is going to be over at Edmonds Woodway on Friday this week. And for the girls, Edmonds Woodway, who really is going to be the favorite to probably win the Wesco 3A conference this year. They will be hosting Juanita on Tuesday night. Lynnwood, we've already talked about them, hosting Kamiak. Seahome is going to be over at Mount Lake Terrace on Wednesday. And Meadowdale's got to wait a few extra days. Their girls' team is going to host Issaquah on Saturday. So plenty of opportunities, and we certainly encourage folks to get out there and see what these teams look like first time this year.
Yeah, always an exciting time when basketball season gets going, and we have more sports to talk about.
We do, unfortunately or fortunately for them, depending on how they look at it, if they want to get ready to go here. They've got a little bit more time to wait, but the wrestling teams are all going to be out on the mats on Saturday next week. Meadowdale and Edmonds Woodway both hosting their own invitationals. And then the swimming teams really don't get going until December 4th, so they'll be practicing nonetheless this week, but we won't have anything to talk about in terms of matches for them until next week's. Actually, probably 2 weeks from now when we do our
Right.
show. So certainly wishing them all the best, and I'm sure we will have plenty to report on from the pool come December.
Yes, we will. So we will see you next week, and thanks for joining us, and enjoy all the holiday shopping you have ahead.